Good morning, good afternoon, good evening all, it's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid. A channel I'm creating to not only to explore the understandings around trauma and how it impacts in a day-to-day reality, but also delve into its mechanisms and the understandings that are very helpful in getting us to actually heal. As I've said in many videos, my goal is not around management, but more around finding ways to actually heal. Now in today's video, this one's a little harder to convey or to explain. And it's also a little button pushy. But it's something that is a real obstacle in our healing, due to how defensive we become when we start to try to look at it. What I'm talking about is what we are drawn to. Now, in previous videos, I've talked about, the cycle reenactments, negative reinforcement, epigenetic inheritance, and all these things that create the structure that we are. It's all around attachments and everything that shapes who we are and how we approach life and the world. And one of the little marker stones within that is what we are drawn to. And the reason I want to raise it is I see very often what people are drawn to when they've gone through significant levels of trauma is out of balance. And what I mean by out of balance is the need that is there, is being pursued to be fulfilled, is one of the intensity of a child's. And it's being attempted to be fulfilled in the life of a grown adult. And this is where things get difficult to understand or to get your head completely around. Whenever we go through trauma, pretty much parts of us remain trapped at that moment. And as with a lot of what I talk about on this channel, is when you start dealing with pre-verbal and early childhood trauma, a lot of aspects of needs that we wanted way back when we were very, very young and very, very little never got met. So we still search for them. And where this becomes very relevant in an adult is all the childhood pursuits are around connection, around meaning, about being seen, around mattering, about having a purpose and fun and being the center of attention, and all these things that kids do. Now, if you take them back into basic wants and emotional pursuits, and you put them in an adult context, it adds another layer of complexity, but also adds many layers of seriousness. An infant will pursue the center of attention by singing in, walking into a circle of people, singing and dancing and carrying on. An adult does that, it's perceived in a completely different way. This is kind of where I'm getting at with this explanation. And the reason this is really important in healing of trauma is we need to become aware of it, is because it governs what we go after. And it also shapes what we require to be fulfilled. It shapes our connections and our relationships and our friendships and the levels of success that we require to be met, to go, well, I've actually achieved something. And in healing, the risks of negative self-reinforcement are always present and always high. And this is one of the driving forces behind it, is our emotional expectations are out of balance with an adult construct, because those expectations and needs were created when we were very, very young. Easy to say, but a challenge to actually comprehend the depth of. Now, when we start to look at these things, I find doing a mind map, which I've done in other videos, is quite useful. Getting a whiteboard or a sheet of poster board and mapping out what you want. And start to look at how much emotion you put into that, into what it is you actually want. I'm not talking about just playing some silly little game here. I mean, really get into the core of what it is you are really pursuing to be fulfilled. What you cry out in those darkest moments by yourself at 2 a.m, that kind of stuff. We need to get that recognized, to be brought to the surface and looked at in a written sense. It's not about diving in there and sitting in that space. It's merely writing it out in a very simple framework. And the reason for this is that's your driving force. That drives everything you will pursue. To put it in my own personal context, my entire life, I have tried within myself to find a way to get to my mother, to come into that dark, cold room, pick me out of that box, hold me, keep me safe, welcome me, and take me home. That has governed every facet of every pursuit, because that is what I've tried to fulfill, and I was completely unaware of it for decades. And the reason so many things fell down was because I'm trying to fulfill something that I didn't even know, I didn't even realize how strong it was and what it actually was. So when I had successes and I tried to go, well, why aren't I feeling it? It's because those successes are not in the area, the ballpark of what it is I'm trying to actually find, what I'm actually trying to fulfill within me. How I've seen this in the work that I've done and what I've seen over many, many years is the pursuit of relationships. You got those people that can never be without a partner. The pursuit of ever-increasing intensity of intimacy. The pursuit of ever-increasing needs of hoarding, of holding things together, of control. All these things are adult attempts to bring peace and fulfill a childhood need or a childhood want. And we really need to be aware of them, because they're going to govern how we do so much for our healing journey. And it is something that is a real obstacle if we don't understand it. You know, it's like going searching through an entire world of stores with no idea what it is you're trying to find. You'll find a whole bunch of stuff and all these, but is it relevant? Is it actually what you're really needing or what it is you're really looking for? Now, when you find it and when you understand it, the difficulty between childhood and adult emotional pursuits is the intensity of a child and the gray areas of an adult. You know, the easiest way to explain this is, you give it, like I said before, you give an ice block to an 18-month-old, let them get halfway through it and take it out of their hands, you've got, the entire world falls down. But you do that to an adult, so the response is different. It's this intensity. But the thing with childhood emotions is they are extremely intense, but they're also very short. An 18-month-old could have a complete meltdown and then 2 seconds later be giggling, laughing, and playing with a puppy. As an adult, we don't work like that. So we need to put those wants and needs from our childhood into contexts that are achievable as an adult. And that's the tricky side. Because we need to recognize that a whole bunch of adult pursuits culminated into an ecology. When we achieve that ecology, that is when the childhood need will be fulfilled. As I've said in numerous videos throughout the channel, the holy grail is belonging. That's the holy grail of healing. Well, that fulfills every childhood want. That fulfills every childhood need. When a child feels safe and belonging, they can do anything in this life. And that is why I've said it's the Holy Grail. So if we look at it as in an adult construct, we're creating an ecology, a whole bunch of different things, all working together, naturally working together to feed this internal need that was created when we were little. That's about the easiest way that I can explain this. And this, as you know, as with any of these sorts of things, will play out in many, many facets through for each. It's always going to be very individualistic. But I really wanted to draw your guys' attention to, understanding what it is you're driven to pursue. And there is two sides to that sword as well that I think I should raise. Is sometimes what we're driven to pursue is to protect or hide from what it is we're actually wanting to pursue. So get that poster board or that whiteboard out and have a play. And no one needs to see that. Whatever you put there is just for you. It's how you can externalize, work it out to where you can understand it. And if you know it already, as I said, it's looking at creating an ecology in the now, in your life now, that can create that fulfillment. Because nothing in your life now will have the intensity of a child's need. With adults, the older we get, the more grey areas, the more things become. Our brain alters, the way things work and the way we perceive alters. So there's nothing with the intensity, there's no single thing with the intensity strong enough in an adult's life that can fully appease a child or a very young child's want. But an ecology can. And that's what I wanted to try to convey to you guys in this video. As always, be safe, be mindful of this stuff, take the time to learn. I always like your questions and feedback. So be safe, be well, and I'll see you next time. Hope.